Welcome to Dental Success Beyond Chairside, the podcast that is dedicated to revolutionising the way dental professionals succeed beyond the dental chair. Join us for a unique blend of insightful interviews with industry experts and valuable tidbits of information to help you thrive in your dental specialist practice. In each 20-minute episode, we'll delve into a variety of topics, including HR, marketing, innovative techniques and systems, and AI, to help you transform your practice and unlock its full potential. Whether you're a dentist, specialist, or oral health therapist looking to enhance your practice, this podcast is your go-to resource for professional, personal, and profitable success. Get ready to go beyond the dental chair and discover what lies ahead in your practice journey with Dental Success Beyond Chairside. Welcome to today's episode of Dental Success Beyond Chairside. Does your business depend heavily on you knowing everything? Worried the business can't function when you're not around? I'm honoured to be joined by Greg Gunther from Your Business Momentum. Thank you so much for joining us today, Greg, and it's great to have you here.
Thank you for having me, Michelle.
Greg's a seasoned business advisor, mentor and strategy implementation specialist with a passion for helping organisations get clear on their strategy and implement it. With over 30 years of business and professional experience, he's guided numerous established as well as rapidly growing businesses towards success. Greg, can you share your story and expertise on what it takes to own a successful small business?
Well, Michelle, to be honest, I could probably wrap it into one word, and that is persistence. Small business is hard, but I think, like you, I've got a background in business, and going through that journey at a personal level helps understand a lot of the intricacies in owning and managing a business. And the thing is, you get to ride the highs and the lows of that as well. It helps you understand what are the sort of things where I'm skilled. I'm a big believer in who, not how. Having the right people around you. Sometimes in business we tend to think like we've got to know it all and do it all. We do fall into that trap a lot, I see. But when you start to surround yourself with good people, that's when things start to shift. The earlier that we can be onto that in our business lives, the sooner it is that we'll start to see some really good shifts.
Yes, definitely having the right people around you to help you achieve success is a really big thing. Having those people around you and surrounding you by good people with you thinking that you know everything, how can you set that up for success, for getting those people on board and seeing your vision and seeing your mission and how you want to deliver things?
Yeah, and look, you're raising some really good points there, Michelle, because I think the first part of that is really understanding what is it that I'm wanting to achieve. For me, a lot of that sort of sheets back to purpose. Why am I doing this? What has got me into this in the first place? Where is that passion? Because I find time in business, sometimes passion will wane as things get hard. It's important that we sort of reconnect back with that. And to your question of getting the right people around you, then understanding or recruiting for the people that share that type of purpose. I know, it's an interesting time we live in now, and this is probably the first time that we've got basically 4 generations all working together, from the baby boomers right through to the Gen Zers, all working together in business. Now, that's interesting because it creates a lot of tension. As a leader, and particularly like myself as a baby boomer, I need to understand how to lead people like that and to make sure that I've got the alignment of the people, having the right people in the right seats, doing all the right things at the right time around me. That takes an effort, and we need to put a lot more effort in my world into getting the right recruiting. I don't think we spend enough time on that.
Our previous series, interestingly, has been on HR and choosing and hiring the right person and setting those foundations up for success. I did interview 2 practice owners who talked about values and what their practice was all about and hiring for success, which is a really nice thing that you now talk about that, especially as a very seasoned business professional helping multitudes of practices. So hearing you say that is just fantastic.
100%, Michelle. Really, it's the foundation.
It is the foundation, and that's all. When I'm doing speaking gigs, it's always talking about those foundations for success being those values. Obviously, the onboarding and doing that properly as well, and not just chucking them in the deep end. Dentists are dentists and they are clinicians. They go and work for someone, and then they go, "Oh yeah, great! I'm going to go and start my own practice." Generally, the clinic runs really well, but when I come in, there's often HR issues, and then it's like, oh, I've told them how to do this a million times, but they just don't do it properly. Do you see this? What could dental practices do, in your opinion, in your expertise in working with businesses over a multitude of years do?
I wish I could count the number of times that I've heard that story. It's so common. We do go into business with a passion, and we think, well, why do it for someone else? My dad actually did the same for me. He said, why are you working for somebody else? Go and do it for yourself. But at the moment we do that, we start to realise a few other realities of being in business, not least people. But I think in terms for what can dentists do, in dental practice, I find a lot of dentists are still on the tools. They're actually at the chair, and they're basically doing the doing in the business, and they're largely responsible for the customer experience at the chair level, at least. I think for dentists, they need to understand that there's a lot more to a client experience or a patient experience than just what happens in the chair. It starts right from the point of view of when somebody calls to make a booking. When they're ringing, it goes through to the actual experience when they arrive for their appointment. It comes to what's that process that onboards them as an initial patient, or when they're coming as a regular, how well do we know them? There's a whole client experience, a client journey that extends beyond the chair. For dentists, they need to understand that, well, first and foremost, what does that journey look like? A lot of us don't ever really sit down and map that actual journey of our patient. Where do they first get in contact with us? They might not be getting in contact with us. It might be a Google search, or it might be a website, or what's that experience before they even get to ring to make an appointment? What's the booking experience like? Really map that is probably one of the first things that I would do as a dentist. Map the client journey, the patient journey. Understand then in all of those steps. Somebody very famous years ago, I forget who it was, said these are all moments of truth. How many moments of truth do I have in my business? And you'll typically find there's probably 19, 20 or more moments of truth that a patient is having with my practice. And then we as a dental practice owner need to really analyse how well are we doing each of those moments of truth. And we're big on systems and processes, which was, I think, the context really for this podcast. We need to understand all of the steps, the processes that sit behind each of those moments of truth. We need to put a good effort into we'd say document. We need to capture and document what each of those steps looks like.
I love that moments of truth, and being in the dental industry for a multitude of years as well, I understand what that journey looks like. Essentially what will happen is somebody might move to a new suburb, or they might need to see a specialist. If they go to their dentist, the dentist might recommend a specialist, or they'll just go out into their friends and they'll say, I need to see a new dentist. Who do I need to see? And they might go to Facebook groups. So I'm in this new area, who should I go and see? And then they'll do a Google search. So your website has to be fully optimized. And then they'll go to your socials because they want to see if they can get that connection with your practice. You need to be posting on there. And then that new patient phone call, oh my God, that is the most important call.
Absolutely.
Dr. Jennifer Smith was just talking about this on LinkedIn. I just commented on it because this is what I rave about all the time. You need to spend the time, you need to understand, you need to have it scripted. That's one of the systems. How you answer the phone. Is it good morning? Is it thank you? Is it, just those things. So it's all standardized. Then sending out that welcome pack so everything's exactly the same. As you said, when they come into the practice, what's it like? I always recommend having a welcome board. Welcome to our new patient, Michelle. You don't use their surname, obviously, for privacy. People just love that. It's creating that experience and that patient journey, all of those moments of truth, those touch points, and having it documented, having it systemized, having the verbiage, having the checklist to make sure that you do everything. Does that make sense?
That welcome board you talked about, I actually have seen that done at a practice that I've been to for a treatment myself, and it's a wow factor. They've taken the time. It's actually on a chalkboard. Welcome, Greg, to our practice, and it's just one of those little touch points. But you think, oh, okay, it's a little bit human.
I used to work in an orthodontic practice, and it's used to say, you're starting your journey, you're having your braces on today. I was working with a specialist practice, and I said about the board, and they were like, okay, just get a little blackboard. Sure, your kids have got a blackboard. I've gone in there and they've implemented it, and people do love it. It's really
yeah.
So the moments of truth through the patient journey.
Yeah, absolutely. We need to understand the patient journey and all of those moments of truth. And as I say, this is probably where it gets hard because we don't have a lot of time in a dental practice. Everyone's busy. But we need to make time to start to capture and document those processes. One of the things we talk a lot about is just capture what you're already doing. One of the things that we like is to just do a video capture. Because these days with video, we've got transcription services. It's at the very basic level. If you're just videoing it, you are, in essence, capturing a process. Now, we would go to another level and actually start to put that into a system itself where we've got everything centralised and a single source of truth. But at the very, very basic level, if you start to identify in all of those patient journey, the steps, and you start to think, okay, I'm going to video capture this, I'm going to video capture that, and just schedule it in. Actually make some time to do those video captures. And then using the likes of Loom, for example, people have probably got their own favourites, but Loom will do a transcription service that will help you at least have some documentation.
A lot of dentists have Microsoft 365, so there's Stream as well.
Yes.
Stream is 15 minutes you can get for free on the business one. Loom is obviously just 5 minutes for free if you just go on the free platform. I'm not sure what the paid platform is, but yeah, there's two platforms I definitely advocate. But the smartphone, Greg, totally agree, 100%. It's so easy just to video someone. Many people from baby boomers right down to the Gen Zers that you talked about all watch YouTube videos to work out how to do things. So videos is very much now for that whole generational mix.
One thing I'd add to it too, Michelle, is that once a practice actually does this, it becomes part of their own IP. It's an asset. It's part of our differentiator because as a dental practice, one of the things that, it's a competitive world we live in, so we want to make ourselves look and stand out differently. So if we start to enhance, once we've captured what we already do, we're big believers in optimization. If we're starting to optimize and really customize those processes to suit our practice, that's our competitive edge. If at one day somebody decides they want to sell their practice and we've got this all fully documented and everybody's trained on it and everybody does it, it's an asset. You're actually shifting knowledge to the balance sheet, not least losing it if somebody walks out the door. It's something you can use to help onboard and train, because I think one of your previous podcasts you talked about onboarding. You can actually use these to help onboard a person and self-direct their own onboarding. It doesn't mean I have to be standing over their shoulder training them.
And that's what's so wonderful as well for the practice owners that can sometimes be overwhelmed. As you said, they're generally on the tools, they're getting the clinical outcomes. But as an owner, they're also an owner and a manager sometimes, and it's quite overwhelming and they become disillusioned. As you said, it's just like they lose their passion because all they want to be is a dentist practitioner, but they're doing these other things and getting dragged away from that. And then they're the ones like, I'm the only one that knows how to do this. So by documenting and having these systems, it's so easy for people to come in. I've found personally, and I'd love to see what your thoughts are on this, Greg, as well, is that once you have those systems in place, it makes for a really happy workplace because people know exactly what they're doing. The clients, the patients, whoever your customer is, they are very happy because they know if they refer someone to you, that person's going to get exactly the same as what they've got. They can confidently know that they're trusting you to them as well.
Yeah, totally right. Vistage have just released some research. Vistage used to be the executive tech groups. One of the pieces of research that they speak to is there's a very strong correlation between employee engagement and menial tasks. Now, one of the things we often get our teams to do, our people to do, is a lot of menial tasks. What they're finding in this particular piece of research is that this engagement is heightened when we get them to be doing a lot of menial tasks. If we can systemize a lot of that, develop it into systems. The bit that becomes beyond this, by the way, we haven't spoken about is automation. Like we can automate a lot of these things. So that's the exciting world that I'm operating in at the moment. And this has just got me so excited in terms of what's ahead of us. Like we're just going to, what it'll allow our employees to do is to be human, do the things that they're really good at, and have all of these menial things just really systemized and automated and operating in the background. So I can actually do what I do well and what I'm employed to do. So yeah, you're right.
With this automation, which is interesting, because I think sometimes before all AI and everything in the last few years, people used to go, systems, processes, it's all automation. We have to get this and we have to get that. It's just too hard, even though it's operating procedures, a video or writing things down or a checklist. Can you explain now with automation, because in this system series, we're talking about having, like in the sterilisation room, for instance, there's now stock systems where you can scan and you can do this to make things so much easier. So you can then be with that patient to create that patient experience. What sort of automations are you talking about? Because you got very excited, so I'm really interested.
Well, I think the first step in all of this, Michelle, which I probably need to reinforce, is you have to capture what you're already doing first.
Yes.
Because we don't want to be automating poor systems. We're just exacerbating a bad process. So the first part of any systemisation of a business starts with capturing what you already do. Once we've got that, though, we're in a position where we can look at each of those mapped processes and understand what are all of the steps in that, and how many times does a human really need to touch that? Because when you map a process, it's very visual. Step 1, step 2, step 3. And we did one, actually it was last year, or it might have been a little bit more than that ago, where there was 19 steps in this particular process. It was a large process. What we realised, though, is in that 19 steps, a human only really needed to touch that twice. Everything else in that could be automated, and there were literally tasks that needed to be done. The automation, like there's a lot of different tools we use, but automation at its simplest level is just simply prompting the next task. If I complete a task and I tick it off, like in our system, like we're automated, in my system, if I tick off a task that I've been prompted to do because somebody else has triggered it, when I tick that, that will then trigger the next task and allocate it out to the next person. And will tell them they need to complete this task by this time. So it bounces the ball along without me physically having to go and check up all the time. Has that been done? So
is that like Monday and stuff like that? Is that?
Yeah, there's a lot of, Monday has a lot of automation triggers in it. We use a package called Podio. A lot of these systems now that have been developed have automation capability built within them. That's at the basic level that you could do. We need to start exploring some of those options.
It was so funny. I was just speaking to Deza this morning, and we were talking about automating emails to get a prompt to make sure that we do this, that we do that, and then we can tick that off. Is there other things you wanted to talk about, Greg, with regard to our discussion today?
Look, I think in this world, Michelle, we're operating in an environment, we've obviously come out of a period where talent has been really tight to recruit. Dentistry is no different to a lot of the other businesses I work with. There is a little bit of freeing up of that, but the thing is it's got a lot more expensive. For operators now, business owners now, we need to start to think about how we can work smarter. How can we do more with what we've already got? The risk in dentistry is if I'm sitting at the chair, I've got everything else happening out there, and I need to know that that's functioning really well. Obviously, how can we actually get more efficient, more productivity? The thing I find about productivity, sometimes it gets this sort of poor connotation that I have to work harder. It's actually not about that at all. It's about how can I work smarter. The very efficient businesses are doing a lot with few people. One of the measures we use is revenue per employee, and that's one of the key measures we look at. And there'd be highs and lows in there. If I looked at a practice and it was down low, revenue per employee was low, that would spell to me that they're quite inefficient. That would say to me they're a candidate for getting really systemised in terms of the way they do things. So that would be one of my sort of key messages, I suppose, is how can we work smarter?
Yeah. So essentially systemisation increases productivity.
Yeah, it does. It does. Because, sorry?
Which increases profit.
Yeah. Well, it'll hit profit, but it also hits revenue because the systems will actually help us drive revenue as well. But the big thing is culture will be so much better because people are doing what they love doing.
Absolutely. That was what I was going to say next. So culture, onboarding, happy patients, happy staff, happy owner, everyone knows what they're doing, low turnover of staff, keeping them just perfect. Absolutely wonderful sharing all of your tidbits, your moments of truth, everything. It's just been so fantastic having you, Greg. I really appreciate you sharing your expertise, and it's nice to know I'm on the same page as you as well. We did connect very early because I was very inspired by what you have written on LinkedIn. So thank you so much for coming on today. For more information about Greg, his website and social media profiles, please see our show notes. Thank you so much for this, Greg. Have a beautiful day and really appreciate your time.
It's been my pleasure, Michelle. Thank you very much.
Thanks so much. See you.
Bye.
If you enjoyed this episode, please subscribe to our podcast or YouTube channel. Your feedback helps us continue delivering valuable content and insights from leaders in the dental industry. In our next episode of Dental Success Beyond Chairside, we're joined by a very special guest, Ross Pritchard, my husband, a retired dentist and now dog owner extraordinaire and windsurfer. Together, we'll share our personal journey and discuss how implementing effective systems made all the difference in our practices and gave him the freedom to focus on what he truly loved, practicing dentistry. Thanks for listening, and we'll see you next time.